Hey folks,
Yeah, Hoopa.
welcome to another video.
Today we're doing a wrap-up of everything we read in October, as well as a book haul of all the books we accumulated this month.
Let's get started.
Let's get started with the books we read.
Yes.
So the first book I listened to was Becoming by Michelle Obama. It was really interesting. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It was just interesting to listen to her life and then her years as the First Lady. I will say I did prefer the years before she became First Lady because it was more interesting and more relevant to me, I guess, because I never been a First Lady and I never will be. So it was just more interesting to listen to her childhood, which I didn't really know anything about, and then when she was studying and working as a lawyer. It was really good. I recommend it to everyone. Everyone should read this.
Well, I read 20th century women's poetry. I'd say also 4 out of 5 stars. There were some favorites that I got to see again and some new people to explore.
The next book I finished this month was The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. I gave this a 4 or 5. I mean, either or. It was really good. It took me a while to read this though, not because it was bad or poorly written. It was just me being not in the mood to read. But yeah, this was really, really good. It's just kind of like a fairy tale for adults. It follows the main character Linus, who goes to this house where it's like an orphanage, and then he meets all these children who are of a variety. You can read these children's quest for their human rights about being about Black people or LGBT people. But still, it was really good. I recommend it. Everyone should read this. It's so good. I mean, look at the tabs. Yeah, it was just a sweet little story about, coming to terms with who you are and belonging, and yeah, really good. One of my favorite books of the year.
Mm-hmm. The next book I read was Siegfried Sassoon's War Poems. So this wasn't a collection that he himself made. It was poems that were selected by an editor, but written during World War I. Siegfried Sassoon was probably bisexual. We don't know. He never said, and obviously the term is a bit anachronistic. However, he knew a lot of other gay poets, including Wilfred Owen, who died during World War I. And it was really, really affecting reading poems that he wrote while he was in the trenches in World War I. A lot of war is terrible, which I already knew, and also some very homoromantic poetry to some of his friends as well. Very emotionally difficult to read, but definitely would recommend anyone who is interested in learning about gay poets.
So the next book I finished this month was Kingdom of Copper, which is the second book in the Dayavabad trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty. This was really good. It was a bit slow moving at times, but I still really enjoyed it. And I don't want to say what this is about because that will spoil what happens in the first book. So yeah, I think I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars as well. Even though I thought some of the bits were a bit slow moving at times, but overall it was a really enjoyable read.
The next book I read was Remember Body by C.P. Kabafi, who was also gay. I think he was Egyptian, and the poems that are in this collection he wrote while he was in Greece, and they talk a lot about having affairs with young men and stuff. I'd give it a 3 out of 5 stars. No, it was really cool because this is 19th century gay people, which I haven't read that much of, and I didn't know him before I read this, so it was nice to see some of the cool, interesting things that people talked about back then.
The next book I finished this month was The Girls by Emma Cline. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. There were bits that was really enjoyable. I really liked the beginning of the book. But then there was bits in the middle where I was it was interesting to a point, but it it wasn't really for me. I had really high hopes for it, that it was going to be like really, really good. So I guess maybe that affected my enjoyment of it. It's about like cults, and it kind of hints that it's about like the Manson family.
And then I read Generations, Poems Between Fathers, Mothers, Daughters, and Sons. 5 out of 5 stars, definitely. I kind of went into it thinking it'll just be a whole bunch of poems that I can't relate to. And actually, I related to a lot of them. There were so many poems where I was thinking, those are feelings that I've had about my parents, or that I feel about parents in general, or about children. And it was really nice to see that it wasn't all just like, I love you so much, you are the light of my life, which is kind of the type of poetry that I would normally associate with parents and children. There's a lot of poetry where people are really angry or sad about how their parents treated them, but a lot of the children's poems, they were very meaningful for me. So would recommend to anyone who has parents or children.
And the next book I finished or read this month was Sight Witch by Susan Dennard, which is like a prequel to her Sight Witch series, but you kind of have to read it before you read the third book in the series. Very confusing, but it takes place like a year before Truth Witch. It was good. It was a bit slow going for me in the beginning. I actually had to re-listen to this like twice. But once you kind of understand where it's going, you're like, oh, I get it now. I see. And I really enjoyed this as well because it was like multiple narrators, which is like my favorite things with audiobooks. I think I gave this like a 3 or 4. If you enjoy the Truth Witch series, then you should, read this or listen to it. Otherwise, I'm not going to recommend this to like anyone who hasn't read any of the books in the series. It will be very confusing, I think, for people to read this prequel if they haven't read like at least the first book. Overall, it's a really good series. I recommend it to anyone who want to read like something fantasy with a lot of characters and some politics involved. We both read The Black Flamingo.
Yes, we did.
I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was really, really good. I never read a book in verse before, so it was like a bit of a new experience. I thought it was going to be like, I wouldn't understand anything. But it was really good about like identity and belonging and understanding who you are and like gender expression and sexuality.
I would also give it, I think, 4 out of 5 stars. I related to a lot of the stuff that it was about, and then immediately felt guilty for being angry that there wasn't something equivalent for someone of my cultural heritage. But, it is what it is.
You can write that book.
I can. Exactly. I really liked it, and I liked the storytelling and how it was done. It was almost multimedia.
Yeah.
In how it was constructed, and I really, really liked that.
Yeah, I liked that it was like a lot of verse about like his life, but then intertwined with like actual poems by the character / the author, I guess, depending on how you read it.
Yeah.
Because I would assume that this is very based on like the author's life.
And I'm looking forward to reading his poetry chapbook, which I have and got halfway through reading and then got busy and didn't finish it. But I will read it next month, I think.
Yes.
You're welcome to as well.
Yes, absolutely. So I have 2 more books. I read / listened to The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This is the first time I've ever read this book. I know this is very popular on BookTube, but I never got to it until now. I also keep confusing this with another book that's about vampires. Anyway, I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. I really, really liked this. I thought it was like very beautiful written. I like the kind of meandering in this book as well. Like it wasn't like super fast paced, but it wasn't slow paced. The only thing that confused me, but I think this is because I was listening to it, was that the chapters are very short, but then it will also mention different years. So every chapter is a new year or like a new day or something. So it kind of got me a little bit confused because some of the storylines doesn't take place at the same time. But I really recommend this to anyone who hasn't read this yet. I also have in the past read her second book, The Starless Sea, which I actually think I enjoyed a little bit more than this. I actually cried when I finished The Starless Sea. And the last book I read, with a lot of tabs, is Empire of Gold by S.A. Chakraborty. I had a time constricting because I want to join the live show that's on the 7th of November. But I finished it before it because the last 100 pages were like so good. I was like, I have to finish this now. It was a really good conclusion, I think, to the series, and I feel like a lot of the characters got what they deserved. I don't mean that like in a mean way. I mean that like, yes, this is what I wanted for all of them. Read this series, please. It was really good. Now we're moving on to book hauling.
Yes. Let it be known that Tess and I have very different book buying styles.
What are you talking about?
I mostly buy my books secondhand from charity shops, and sometimes new, but almost exclusively from Gaze the Word.
I usually buy new books, or I get some from subscription services like Illumicrate and Fairy Loot. I will say there's one book on this pile that is actually secondhand, so it's a mix of all three versions of book buying.
Yes.
Should I start?
Yes.
I feel like my pile is a bit bigger.
Yes. Let's start with Tess.
I don't remember what order I got any of my books in. I've just accumulated them on a pile. So this was one of the books, which is The Lives of Saints by Leigh Bardugo, and this is the Illumicrate edition, so it has like this dust jacket, which is beautiful.
The inside flaps.
Yes, the inside flaps has a little art pieces as well, which is like gorgeous. And I haven't obviously gotten to this book yet, but I just want to take my time reading this, I think, because it's not like a book that I think has a storyline.
I actually own the real life equivalent of this book for actual real life Christian saints.
Oh, you should read yours and I read this. Yes. And I can compare.
Yes, I also want to read that though.
I keep forgetting that you read Six of Crows.
I have actually read a fiction book.
So yesterday I got these two books. I got a box with a bunch of stuff. So this has like gray spread edges, and it has art on the inside as well, which I love when they do that. And it's signed, of course. So I'm excited to get to this because this book, the box was delayed by like 2 months or something. Because I actually really enjoyed Serpent and Dove. I know a lot of people didn't on BookTube, but I haven't heard anything about this one yet. But I love this. This is a guilty pleasure. I read this one over Christmas last year when I was like by myself. So I might, depending on what happens this year, I might read this over Christmas in Sweden. But we shall see. And then for my second-hand book, I got The Flowers of Algernon by Daniel Keyes. I wanted to read this for a long time, but the only editions that they used to sell, at least where I used to work, was like this edition which had the old text, it looked like it was copied. So it was very like blurred. But this is like a new edition, I think, that they printed. So the text is actually, I can actually read it.
Legible.
Yes. So I got this at a secondhand shop near where we live. And then from Fairy Loot, I got this one, Fabled by Adrienne Young. And I don't really know what this is about. It's about mermaids. That's all I know. But it's very beautiful. I like this cover. It's like different from the standard edition. But yeah, I do like mermaids, so I'm interested to read this when I can and when I'll get to it. And it's not very long, so it'll be a quick read. And then I got this, which is Fence Striking Distance, which is a book that is based on the graphic novel Fence. So this is written by Sarah Reese Brennan, who doesn't write the graphic novel. I don't know if this is like just an adaptation of the graphic novel volumes that are out now, if this is like another story set in this universe. I don't know. I really like Fence. It's very cute. And then I got This Winter by Alice Oseman. This is the signed edition from Waterstones. This also took ages to get. Anyway, so this is like illustrated. I think it was like an ebook before, but now it's out in print, and she's like added like some mixed media and some art. So yeah, this takes place on Christmas, so maybe I'll read this for Christmas. This is from Illumicrate, which is A Deadly Education by Naomi Novick. I am not super interested in reading this. Controversial to say, I guess. When I first read the synopsis, I was like, none of this makes any sense to me. And when a synopsis doesn't make any sense to me, I usually don't really want to read it. But this is supposed to be like dark academia, which kind of interests me. But we'll see if I read this or not. I'm like lukewarm. And also there's been like some controversy with the book as well, which kind of makes me want to read it less. I got this just new from Blackwell's Beyond the Ruby Wheel by Mara Fitzgerald. This is supposed to be like a female-female romance, a bit dark, I think, as well. So it's like a fantasy. The female-female romance like sold me right away. And also this cover is beautiful. So I don't know too much about like the synopsis. I think this could be a really interesting read. And then from Gaze the Word, I got this, but not secondhand. So this is The Intoxicating Mr. Lavelle by Neil Blackmore. This sounded a bit like Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, which is one of my favorite books. So obviously instantly wanted to buy, and it feels very similar where the main character goes on like a trip in Europe, but then he meets Mr. Lavelle, gets taken in and learn about like being fancy. The main character is supposed to be like a bit working class. Yeah, so it sounds really interesting. I hadn't heard about this before, so when I saw it and like read the synopsis, I was like, this sounds like something for me. We're almost there. And then the same day I got The Intoxicating Mr. Lavelle, I got this, but from Waterstones. This is June, and it's like obviously a special edition. It's beautiful. It has art everywhere. It's beautiful. I haven't read Dune before. It's a book that I wanted to read for a long time, but just haven't got into it. And now when the movie's coming out, well, it's been postponed to 2021. I actually have time to read this. And I had seen this edition before, like online, but because it's a US edition, it's going to be super expensive to buy. But I can like not buy it because I was like, I have to have this edition by Dune. It's so beautiful. I love it. And the final book, which is, I think this is actually one of the first books I got this month, is The Devil and the Dark Water by Stuart Turton, who wrote The 7 Lives of Evelyn Hardcastle, which I haven't read, but I really do want to get to, which I've heard really good things about as well. And this sounds really good as well. It's basically like a murder mystery taking place in a boat. And now it sounds very gay as well, like has some gay undertones. I don't think it will be. A character is being like held captive on this boat, but then his friend has to like figure out this murder that's happened on the boat or something. And this is the Forbidden Planet exclusive edition, so it has like the red suede edges with the eye.
And now for my book. So I bought A Vindication of the Rights of Woman by Mary Wollstonecraft. It's a Penguin Books edition, which makes me think that it's probably abridged, which is a shame. However, I haven't read it before. It's a manifesto for why women should have rights, which is a thing that is still relevant today, I guess. Also, at the same time, from the same charity shop, I bought The Secret Life of Oscar Wilde, because I love Oscar Wilde.
I mean, who doesn't?
And I kind of know vaguely what his life was like, but I don't know that much about him, so I thought it would be really cool. From Gaze the Word, I bought an anthology for queer poets of color. As you know, I love poetry, and I love queer things.
What?
And I'm a person of color. So it's all a confluence of things that I love.
Yes, now you just have to become a poet and then...
Yes.
You can be.
I have kind of given it like a quick flick through, but basically I saw the title and was like, I have to have it. I'm looking forward to reading that. They're listed the poets at the back. I know a few of them, but most of them are unknown to me, so hopefully I will find some new poets that I really like. I also bought A Little Gay History, I believe from the same charity shop, but at a different time. Another time that I went there.
There's clearly a gay person living. They're just like selling off their books or donating them for just for you.
Just for me. And I'm very grateful. By R.B. Parkinson. I've seen it around a lot of times in like museum bookshops. but I never got it. I've seen the light, so I'm gonna read that hopefully soon. The final book that I got is The Love of Cats by Celia Haddon. The same charity shop. I think I bought it at the same time as A Little Gay History, and I think it's just poems about cats, or just little short stories about cats. And I love cats. And I love poetry. So, yeah. Actually, when I bought it, the person behind the till was like, we have all of these other cat things that if you want to peruse. And I was like, thank you, that's okay. Just seemed like a kind of fun thing.
Okay, so I almost forgot a book. It's because I'm currently reading it. So I got this book this month as well. This is The Invisible Life of Ed LaRue by V. Schwab. This is the Forbidden Planet exclusive edition, so it has like blue instead of gold, which I think the standard / the Waterstones edition has. And then underneath the dust jacket it has like Addie, I guess it's supposed to be Addie, in blue, and it's signed too. I think almost all of my copies by V. Schwab is signed, and some of them are actually dedicated to me.
Oh.
Well, she came into where I used to work, so I had to ask her to sign everything. But yeah, I'm only like 100 pages in or so, but it's really good.
Well, that's it. I hope that you enjoyed seeing what we read and what we are going to read.
Yes.
Hopefully.
And our book buying habits.
I hope maybe you've seen a book that you're interested in.
Comment down below with what your favorite book this month was, and your favorite purchased book this month, if you bought any. Hope to see you soon. Peace.
Bye!